Hi everyone. Happy November, I guess. I know I finished my last vlog at the beginning of November, but now it's like properly November. November is always a bit of a difficult month for me because obviously there's the post-Halloween depression and then it's the end of the year, so I'm usually tired and it's kind of like a dark hole before the Christmas time when I can actually take a break. But it's also my birthday, which is obviously cause for celebration, but I don't know, it just always gives me conflicting feelings. In November, I usually embrace this weird vibe by getting into more existential type horror, but honestly, I don't know if that's gonna be possible this year. I feel like there are too many real life horrors right now, and I'm usually a really positive person, but to be completely honest, I feel so utterly hopeless right now, and I know that's going to pass and hope will come back and motivation will come back, but yeah, right now it just sucks. I feel like many of us have suddenly become hyper aware that a lot of people are really awful and have really awful beliefs and attitudes towards other people. And obviously, we all knew this was the case, but having it just shoved in front of your face and with real life consequences as well. I don't know, I'm starting to ramble. I'm sure you all relate. So, yeah, no idea what I'm gonna read this month or what it's gonna be like. So, I don't know, we'll see. I guess I could start by sharing that I DNF'd my first book of the month, and this was for an in-person book club. It's actually called the Dark Book Club, so we read really dark things. But again, this month's pick was too much real-life horror for me. It is They of the Oprichnik by Vladimir Sorkin, and this is a satire about the Russian government. So yeah, not really in the mood for this. I did start it and I was enjoying it. I wish I knew more Russian history because from what I understand, the satire is very clever, but I fear a lot of it has gone over my head. And right now I just don't have it in me to like be meticulous and go and research things. Also, this is like a dystopia, but it happens in 2028, which is also way too close. And essentially it follows a day in the life of this man. It's called an oprichnik, and it's kind of like a hitman, not really a hitman because he's more multi-purpose than that. I think just does whatever the Tsar says, but he's like very inner circle. And just in the few chapters we got like obviously a lot of violence, both physical violence and sexual violence, all in the name of the government and Russia. So I think this is definitely something I would like to come back to, just not right now. Hello, it's Saturday night and we're gonna take a break from our existential dread spiral to celebrate my birthday. So my birthday's on Monday. I'm turning 35, which is kind of unbelievable and amazing. I think I'm so close to being completely free from the fear of aging, which is a win I'll take, not gonna lie. So I'm celebrating today with my boyfriend and some of my closest friends, and I think it should be fun. First, my boyfriend and I are getting dinner at my favorite Mexican restaurant in Edinburgh, which is the only place currently open that I think serves authentic food. I do like other Mexican places, but this one tastes like the real deal. And then we're finally going on the Edinburgh Ghost bus tour. I've been wanting to do this for the 8 years I've been living here, and for some reason I haven't done it before, so today's the day. I'm super excited for that. I did the one in London this summer with one of my friends. We had so much fun. It's more comedic, it's kind of light-hearted, but I hope the Edinburgh one is just as good. And then we're doing another thing that's been on my bucket list forever, and that's going to Frankenstein's bar. It's like a beer pub, which is not really my thing, but they do have a nice cocktail menu, and as you can imagine, it's Frankenstein's themed. And I think, I'm not sure at what time, but I think throughout the night there are several times when like a huge Frankenstein monster comes down from the ceiling, something like that. I'll try to show you as much as possible, but I'll also just try to enjoy the moment. So yeah, I'll just see you later. It's my birthday today, which means I'm having a cake for breakfast. I'm usually a really good baker. I made this last night in a bit of a hurry, so I actually made a lot of mistakes, but I think it's still really good. So I'm about to go do some birthday shopping. I want to go to my favorite secondhand bookshop and to one of my favorite independent bookshops here in Edinburgh. I don't go there that often, but it's very close to the area that I'm going to be in, so it's a perfect opportunity. And it's called Transreal Fiction and it specializes in sci-fi, fantasy and horror, so I always find something that I want there. And then I also want to do some clothes shopping, so I'm going to my favorite vintage clothes shop here, which is Armstrong and Sons. But before that, I wanted to quickly talk about my November reading plans, because I have read 0 books in November. As I mentioned before, I started reading Day of the Oprichnik by Vladimir Sorokin, but I decided to put these down for later. I didn't finish it in time for the book club meeting, and because I don't know that much about Russian history and some people in my book club really do, I really wanted to get their perspective on it. So now that that chance is gone for now, I'm not super interested in continuing. However, it definitely piqued my interest, and one of my reading intentions for next year is to learn a bit more history. Sorry, the doorbell just went off because I got a little birthday delivery. Where was I? Yes, reading more history. So yeah, this is definitely the type of book that I would want to get back to. I do love a good government satire, and I think I would get so much more out of it with a bit more context. Now, my first and foremost goal for November is to try to combat the existential dread a little bit. So I decided to pick up the book that was selected for the other branch of my in-person book club, and that book is The Spirit Engineer by A.J. West. This is, I think, a historical supernatural horror, which is exactly what I'm in the mood for right now. It takes place in Belfast in 1914. So it's right about that time where people were super into spiritualism and seances. And it has one of my favorite tropes in it. William Jackson Crawford is a man of science and a skeptic. But one day he attends one of these seances and something happens that really fills him with doubt. And this doubt becomes kind of like an obsession to find out the truth about life after death. It says it's a haunted, twisted tale of power, paranoia, and one ultimate inescapable truth. So that sounds awesome, and I'm hoping to start this tonight or maybe later while I'm out. Then I'm participating in Kasha from the channel. I think she changed her channel name recently, so I still remember it by the name Kasha's Wonderland, but I think that's updated now. I'll link her below and you can see the banner here so you don't get it wrong. But she's doing an Evilathon, which is just essentially a horror themed readathon, and the general theme she has chosen this time is based around the release of the Alien Romulus film earlier this year. So she has a whole alien theme going on. I didn't choose specific prompts. In general, I just chose alien books. So the first one is a book that I've been wanting to read for ages, but I've been too scared because I'm so terrified of alien contact, and that is Communion by Whitley Strieber. Maybe it's pronounced Strieber, not sure. But the scariest thing about this is that it's supposed to be non-fiction. It is the testimony of this man's encounter with aliens. And actually this book is super creepy because this is actually the back cover. The front is this, which is awful. I don't want to be looking at this. And the other book I chose is the novelization of the Alien movie by Alan Dean Foster, and this is also my contribution for Novelization November, hosted by Andrew from the channel It Came From The Page. So both these books are really exciting. And then I'm not trying to be overly ambitious, but I just remembered today that I had a book in my October TBR that I said was a must-read, top priority, and I completely forgot about it, which is ridiculous. So I'm gonna do it in November, and it's gonna be really easy to sneak in because it's just a tiny graphic novel, and that's the Chilling Adventures of Salem graphic novel. So this is just like a standalone issue that relates to the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina graphic novels, but obviously focusing on the best character, which is Salem. That's it, so I'm gonna go enjoy my birthday. I hope you are all feeling good. If you're not, if you're also feeling anxiety, dread, hopelessness, and all of those things, first of all, know that it's okay to feel all those things. But also, I'm sending you a big hug in the hopes that you feel maybe a tiny little bit better. Bye! got a juice. By the way, did you know that that stone over there is where they used to hang people? It's actually called the last drop. Secure the goods. Just one more stop. So, I was wondering if you would like to see a birthday haul. It's only small, so it won't take too long. You already saw me unwrapping some presents for my friends, but I'll just give you a close-up. So, two of my friends gifted me these amazing skull bookends. I already knew I was going to get this because my friend bought this at the British Library when we went together to London. So, even though it wasn't a surprise, I was so happy to get them. So they look like these basically, and the other side is the other skull. This just makes me impatient to redo my bookshelves, but I just genuinely have not had any time to do it. So it's gonna have to wait for a little bit more. Talking about bookshelves, from another friend, I got the super cute bookcase bookshelf socks, and then this Camp Crystal Lake notepad. It says family owned and operated, archery, knife skills, axe throwing, and more. And I actually needed something like these for work, so I'm gonna put it in my bag now. Then you saw me go into my favorite secondhand bookshop. That's the kind of place where I just go around picking stuff up. But then I had to really take toll and remember that all of this is happening. So I didn't want to go too overboard. I ended up picking up just one book, and that is Sorrowland by River Solomon. This is an author I've been wanting to try out for a while, and it says it's about a girl or woman, not sure, that is desperate to escape the protective and deeply religious grip of the compound Blessed Acres, which sounds totally up my alley. And then it says her body undergoes a metamorphosis, so I'm not sure if it's going to lean towards body horror or just more focus on the internal transformation. It is gothic and it confronts the tangled history of racism, marginalization, and the black body. So this sounds absolutely incredible, and I'll really try to prioritize it. Then unfortunately, the bookshop I told you about, the one that's only fantasy, horror, and sci-fi, was closed. So I went over to Lighthouse Books, which is another of my favorite indie bookshops. I was specifically looking for non-fiction, but some kind of spooky non-fiction, but also with some kind of social commentary. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I would know when I saw it, and I did. I picked up Woman's Lore, 4,000 Years of Sirens, Serpents, and Succubi by Sarah Clegg. And this is about the story of these monster figures, especially the ones that typically inhabit female or female-like bodies, and how did their mythology evolve into one focused on the seduction of men and eventually recast as symbols of women's liberation. So this sounds super interesting, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. And finally, I did what was most definitely an impulse buy, because I've told myself that I need to stop buying anthologies of horror classic stories, because I have so many, and because they are classics, these stories are usually repeated over multiple anthologies, and I don't need any more. But I saw these and I just couldn't resist it, and I was like, well, it's my birthday. So I ended up with Gothic Horror Stories, Frightful Tales of the Supernatural, in this black hardcover with metallic embossing, and then a cool little spine, and then these sprayed edges. So you can understand why I couldn't resist. However, I'm not going to keep it, because after I thought about it for a minute, once we were home, I realized that not only do I not need these, but I have a friend who would absolutely love this, and I think she needs it in her life more than I do. So I'm going to turn this into a Christmas present for her. And finally, please just indulge me and let me show you what I found in the vintage clothes shop. I was specifically looking for a longish skirt, like a midi or maxi skirt, and a cardigan. I ended up finding this cute pleated midi skirt. I just love these kind of like vintage patterns and stretchy waist, so it's super comfy and just like really easy to pull off with anything. And then I found this super cute blue and black checkered cardigan. Just really simple to throw over, and actually that day I was wearing checkerboard tights, so I wore these with the checkerboard tights and it was so cute together. And the last piece was not on my wish list, but I'm actually the most excited about. It is these leather vest gilet. I don't know how you call it where you live, but it's so cute. It has tons of pockets, like outside and inside. It was from the men's section, so it's kind of oversized and cute, and I don't know, I just love it, and I think it's gonna be super warm as well. And that's it. Happy birthday to me, I guess. I started reading The Spirit Engineer. I don't have it with me right now. It's kind of far away, but it's this one. I've only read 15% of it and I think I like it. I get the feeling that it's going to be slow just because nothing has happened yet, except introducing us to the main character and his family. And he's quite an interesting character. In general, the family dynamics are interesting. He is not a great husband or father. He's quite disengaged and mostly just cares about his job. He's like an engineer at the university, but not really his job, more so his status in the university. It's very obvious that he's quite insecure and competitive, but competitive due to his insecurity, like constantly saying bad things about his co-workers just to make himself look better, I guess. And everything at home's a disaster. He and his wife have been sleeping in separate rooms for maybe a couple months or maybe even years, and the wife has become very involved in church and often attends church meetings. And as I said, it just seems like a lot of unnecessary background, but I'm guessing all of this family situation will become important at some point. I'm really enjoying the writing style because it's a historical piece. I think the language is like adequate for that time period. It really immerses you in that time, but it's quite accessible and it's not hard to understand or read or anything. So yeah, I'm having fun so far, and I'll catch you up later. I want to talk to you about The Spirit Engineer. I have now finished the book. I didn't update much because I just wanted to keep reading. I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. I feel like many of my 5-star reads, this book is not going to be for everyone, but it was definitely for me. I really enjoyed that Victorian era seance spiritualist atmosphere. I just can't get enough. I'm just intrigued by it from like a historical point of view, and I found this book, especially the main character, utterly captivating. The reason I say this might not be for everyone is because I think there's 2 reasons. The first one is that the main character is actually really unlikable. Like, he's actually awful. There are very few redeeming qualities about him, and yet I found him so compelling and so human, like deeply flawed human. But in some way, I was like, my friend, I get it. So without spoiling anything, essentially, this man is an engineer and therefore his mind is very scientific. At least that's how he sees himself and how he tries to act. But he's also a deeply insecure man. He's always comparing himself to his co-workers. He wants status. He values status more than anything else. And that's what motivates him. He wants a top spot in society. So what happens is that one day he has an experience in a sense that starts to put little doubt in his mind that maybe some of these could be real. And he goes into a rabbit hole, first trying to disprove the spiritualists and say, hey, listen, these people are frauds. But as he doubts the reality of these things more and more, his obsession then becomes to prove that spirits are real and prove the scientific mechanism that they use to communicate with the living. So this is very much a descent into madness story, and I love that we go on a similar journey as our main character. We see the evidence through his eyes and then we flip-flop like, oh my god, is this real? Is this not real? And regardless of your beliefs, because this is a fiction book, you're kind of like open to the possibility of both options being true, and you kind of like make up your mind as you go. Another reason people might not like it is that this is very slow and it is mostly atmospheric. In his quest to approach the spiritual world from a scientific perspective, this guy has to attend seances repeatedly because this is essentially how he conducts experiments. So there are many repetitive scenes of him going to seances, and then similar things happen over and over and over. But I think this just makes sense because that is how someone with a scientific mind would approach the issue. So I didn't mind. I actually thought it was quite exciting to see what kind of evidence would we encounter the next time. So I think this is definitely one of those 5-star books that if someone says I hate it, I gave it 1 star, I would be like, yeah, I mean, I understand, but I loved it so much. And you know, sometimes stars align and things happen in a way that just makes sense. So I chose last week to do my first rewatch of Midnight Mass. I'm referring to Midnight Mass, the Netflix TV show that was written and directed by Mike Flanagan. If you haven't heard of it, first of all, go watch it like right now. And second of all, just to give you a little summary, this is about a small, very religious town. And the town's priest is coming back from his pilgrimage. However, when he returns, he seems a little bit different and odd. There is very little I can say without spoiling this, and believe me, you do not want to be spoiled. So I'll just say the TV show explores how the return of the priest affects the whole town and also explores many of the individual people or families that live there. The reason I want to bring it up right now is not only because it's fantastic, but because it just worked so well with the state of mind I was put in by this book. And this is a pairing that I would have never thought to put together. But once it happened, it just made so much sense. Both really touch on themes of how we as humans construct our worldview. So how do we think the world works, but also how do we come to believe this? So some people rely mostly on their faith and they believe what the Bible says or what their God says or what their spiritual authority says. And other people take a more evidence-based approach. So according to what we know about physics, biology, chemistry, but also philosophy, how we understand just humanity and the existence of human morality and all those things. And by no way I am saying these two are mutually exclusive. They usually are not. But I find it very fascinating how we come to believe what we believe and how sometimes, even though we say our belief is faith-based, we look for evidence everywhere, or the other way around. No matter how much we say we are scientific and objective, sometimes we just believe in things without much evidence or just quite literally develop a blind faith for scientific authorities. So I'm just mind blown by how thin and fragile the line between those two options are. So yeah, I'm quickly approaching rambling territory. But this also kind of brings me back to the birthday present I got for myself, and this is something I've wanted for a long time. It's a piece of jewelry from Regal Rose. Well, 2 pieces of jewelry, but they kind of go together. So it's these 2 rings, and as you can see, one is a heart and the other one is a brain. And I saw it on the website like last year, and I just thought that it really encapsulated this conflict or dilemma I always have brewing inside of me about what my brain believes and my heart believes. And I guess I just wanted to show you because I'm excited to have them now. And that's all for now. Bye! I'm on my first session of Sprains with Kasha from the channel Horror Sickness. I'm chatting with her along with Sharon from Sharon Joy Reads. I'll link both of them below. And as I mentioned before, I started reading Alien, the novelization. It's really interesting. I've never read a novelization before, so I didn't know what to expect. And it's quite cool. The beginning, it's just introducing each of the members of the crew while they're sleeping in their little sleeping pods, like suspended animation sleeping pods, and we just learn a little bit about their personalities and their role in the ship. It's all written in just like a very, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not just factual, like, oh, this person is this role and this person is like this. For some reason, I just expect the novelization to just state the facts that happen in a movie, and obviously that makes no sense because that would be boring as heck. Obviously, this follows a more literary style and there are creative liberties taken, and it's really cool. I feel super ignorant for just being surprised that this is a well-written book. But yeah, I don't know. It's my first time doing this, okay? I am having fun, but I do realize it's the 20th of November and I haven't started Communion, and I really want to read it. But then on the 1st of December, I have another book club that I really want to go to, and the book for that is Ring Shout, and that's only small, so I think I can sneak it in. But I don't know. I feel like November has been such an intense emotional roller coaster, and I'm tired, and really all I want to do is just curl up in bed with my books, and I'm just rambling now, so I'm just gonna keep reading. So I'll check back with you later. I have bad news. It's been a couple of days and I'm going to DNF Alien. I'm definitely gonna keep it because I think it's something that I might want to pick up at some other time, but I don't know, I'm just not in the mood right now. I do like the writing, but there's just so much description about all the technical things that are happening in the spaceship, and right now I just don't have the patience for it. Usually I wake up early, and literally what motivates me to wake up is knowing that I have a good book waiting for me to read. And these past few days I just wake up and I'm like, nah, I'd rather go on my phone, and that's never a good sign. I really just want to read books that I can't stop reading, or that I'm looking forward to the time where I can read, and this is just not doing it for me, so we'll just put it aside for now. I think I'm gonna try and get started with Communion and see how we get on, and if this doesn't work out, I have some more options, so no one panic. I've now started reading Communion, and it's definitely more engaging, or at least I'm finding it more entertaining. It's supposed to be non-fiction, so it just goes into a lot of detail about Whitley Strieber's experiences of being supposedly abducted by aliens. And I'm not sure why I'm finding it so engaging, because it's all just really dry. I think I just find the subject matter so unsettling that I have this morbid curiosity driving me to keep reading, and I'm quite freaked out by this, not gonna lie. It's giving me a little bit of like paranoid feelings. I just really don't want to be taken by aliens. I'm a bit confused about how this can go on for so long, so I don't know if I'm just gonna get bored, because as I said, it's just very detailed events, so I'll just update you at some point later. Hi! Today we're off to the Edinburgh Radical Book Fair, which is hosted by one of my favorite independent bookshops here, which is Lighthouse Books. And this is a book fair that's more focused on books dealing with different social issues. I'm looking forward to maybe find some stuff about feminism or racial colonization issues, but I really have no idea what the selection is going to be. But let's go find out. It snowed all morning, and because Edinburgh cannot cope with snow, all the buses are cancelled, so I'm gonna walk there for about half an hour, which is fine. I'm just baffled by how a country famous for bad weather is surprised when bad weather happens, but yeah, that's how it goes, so I'll show you around. I forgot to say, after that, I'm going to a spoken poetry event. It's like slam poetry, so it's a competition, a spoken poetry competition. It's really exciting. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to film because it's like a stage show, but I'll show you what I can. As expected, I couldn't film anything. I kind of knew I wouldn't be able to film at the poetry event, which was really good, by the way. It's a poetry competition, actually, and they upload a lot on YouTube, so I'll link some if I can below, if you're into that kind of thing. And then I also couldn't really film at the book fair, again, because it was very crowded and I didn't want to have like a bunch of strangers appear on camera. But I got 3 books, so I'll show you. These are quite out of my comfort zone, and really it's just what caught my attention there. I did pick about 6 options, but then I narrowed it down to these 3, and it was really hard because they had a lot of stock that it's not easy to find in any bookshop. There was a lot of stuff that's more on the academic side, so that's the first book I got, one that I wanted to own for ages, but I never found one at a reasonable price, and it's Men, Women and Chainsaws Gender in the Modern Horror Film by Carol J. Clover. This was first published in 1992 and it analyzes horror cinema starting from the mid-1970s, and it's an analysis of how horror films, especially those in which women are the main victim, how they manage to get the public to relate to the female characters rather than the male tormentors. I don't really know, but I've heard amazing things about this one. So if any of you have read it and have any insight on it, I would love to chat to you about it. Then I got A People's History of Scotland. This is not horror, clearly, but I've been in Scotland for almost 10 years now and I plan to stay for longer. So I think it's time that I do a deeper dive into Scottish history. And I was drawn to this one because it says that it looks beyond the kings and queens. It captures the history of freedom fighters, suffragettes, and everyone who fought for the cause of ordinary people. So I think this might be a challenging read just because I don't really well with history, but it's something I want to get more into. So I'll give this a try. And then I don't really know what this is, to be honest. But it just really caught my attention. It's quite big as well. And it's called The English Heretic Collection. And then it says Ritual Histories and Magical Geography. This is by Andy Sharp. And this says it is a visionary field report based on 15 years of deep vein travel to England's strangest landscapes with a host of tragic players. Part countercultural history of England, part ghost story, and part magical psychogeography. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. I don't know if it's like travel writing or if it's more about history. I don't really know, but I am very intrigued. It has kind of like photographs and things like that. Honestly, I'll just have to tell you what this is when I read it. It's the last day of November today and I will be closing the vlog now. But before that, I just wanted to share that I had another 5-star read. And I didn't even mention I started reading it because I just finished it in 2 days. As I mentioned when I DNF'd Alien, this was the book that kept me up at night. I was thinking about it all day, just like hoping to find time to read it. And this morning, it's Saturday today, so I just stayed in bed until I finished it. And it was awesome. The book I'm talking about is Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. And I was aware of this book. I've seen a lot of people read it and enjoy it, but honestly I wasn't like super drawn to it. I picked it up because my local book club has another branch that is the feminist book club, and I've been wanting to join them for a while, but I never had time to read the book they chose. And because this time they chose a horror book, I decided that I had to join. Also, it's really short, so I don't know, it was just practical, and I'm so happy that I picked it up because obviously I loved it. I would actually say this leans more to fantasy than horror. Obviously there are horror elements, but in general it's just like highly fantastical. This is also historical, takes place around 1920 in the USA, so it's post-slavery, but obviously a lot of racism and segregation still going around. And this reimagines a situation in which what if some members of the Ku Klux Klan were actual monsters. I was also surprised to see it as the pick for Feminist Book Club because I wasn't aware that the main character, and actually almost all the main characters, are women. And yeah, they're all awesome. So the story centers around 3 young women who go around hunting Ku Kluxes, which are the members that are monsters, and then the ones that are just human, they call the clans. And the idea is that some people, I'm not sure if it's only black people, but some people have a sight which they can tell which people are just human and which ones are these monsters, and they go out and hunt them. So yeah, that's what they do until one day they learn from another member of their community who is kind of like their, I guess, spiritual or magical leader. She has visions, and she tells the main character, Maurice, that there is a really big threat coming on, and everyone can kind of feel it, that the clan is up to something, and obviously up to no good. However, this threat is far more dangerous, and essentially it's nothing like they've seen before. I found it super tense, there's a lot of action, but then there are more chill portions where we get to know the characters and the world we live in, which I found completely fascinating. I really enjoyed the pacing. As I said, it just kept me reading, but also giving enough time for me to just connect to the characters. And yeah, I cried in the end. I found it very moving and very touching. Also, obviously I knew some things about this era in the United States. I was aware of most of the historical facts that are reimagined in this book, but there were some names mentioned and some situations mentioned that I did have to go to the internet and look up. And I mean, I knew that this whole thing was really bad, but it just hit me in the face how horrible it was. Like, what was going on over there? And then it was, of course, heartbreaking, to say the least, to see many of the situations depicted here kind of happening again. And one would like to think that we learn from our history and from our mistakes, but I guess for some people, those lessons are not going in. Maybe they should read more books like this one. I just wanted to come back from the future really quick and say that it's been a couple days since I finished the book, and while I still loved it, I did reduce my rating to 4.5. I think I got too excited because the ending was so emotional, and as I said, I was crying. But to be completely honest, there were some moments during the book where I was a bit confused about why things were happening the way they were happening, or some things that didn't seem fully justified to me. But I was having a great time, so I didn't want to question it too much. But it did bother me at the moment. And I think especially for people who read a lot of fantasy, it might bother them as well. But at the end of the day, I still maintain a really high rating because it was such an enjoyable read and I love the characters and the story and all of that. But just trying to be a bit more realistic here. That's all I have for today and for this month. I'll see you on my next vlog. I'm not going to be doing only vlogs. It's just the kind of content that I can manage at the moment while I reshift my schedule for the new year. But I promise there's more book-specific content coming. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you don't have anything specific to say, maybe leave me any red emoji for this amazing book and I'll come and say hi. And I'll see you next time. Bye!